Good afternoon and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Short News. My name is Tom Luongo. It is Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. I hope you're all having a great day. And today I want to talk about, upcoming elections. We do a lot of election watching here on this channel, but I really want to talk about what I saw yesterday. I was watching a bit of Tulsi Gabbard on Joe Rogan, and I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I watched the last interview she did with Joe Rogan back in September of last year before she decided to run for president. And now that she's running for president, I think it's good to follow up on this. I've done videos on her, on Gabbard in the past. For those of you who don't know, who are new to the channel, I'm a hardcore libertarian. I fundamentally don't believe in government as a kind of functional conceit. But, and Gabbard in many ways seems like the kind of person that I would never in a million years be interested in or entranced with in any way. But these are not normal times. And in the same way that a guy who I have been following for a long time and whose work I do respect because our worldviews are very similar on a number of fronts, but not on every front, is Nigel Farage of Britain. And Nigel Farage, of course, is the leader of the Brexit Party and the former leader of UKIP, and the man who literally created Brexit out of whole cloth and through almost his own kind of force of personality and being the force of nature that he is. And I was just struck while watching Tulsi Gabbard on Joe Rogan this morning. Actually, I got up very early this morning. I was watching that, not feeling particularly well today. So as opposed to writing for the first couple of hours that I was awake this morning, I was kind of just in a stupor, drinking coffee, watching the Joe Rogan Tulsi Gabbard interview. But I was struck by her in the same way that I was struck by an interview or an informal interview I saw with Farage over the weekend in the north of England in a hard labor district, surrounded by people who are all going to vote for him, who are all supposedly the enemy. That Farage is the enemy. And he was asked, these people were asked by Theo Usherwood, and playing devil's advocate, playing gadfly, said, but Nigel's the enemy. I mean, he's worse than the enemy. He's even worse than a Tory. He's former leader of UKIP. And they're all like, oh no, I love Nigel. He's honest. And I can vote for Nigel because I know he has our best interest at heart. And I know that when the words that come out of his mouth, I agree with. I'm not going to sit here and try and do a Yorkshire accent because it will come out sounding really bad and really lame. So I look at a guy like Nigel Farage, and it's very obvious that his honesty and his authenticity, and this is a theme that I've come back to since before the election here in the United States in 2016. I remember writing an article about Hillary Clinton's authenticity gap with millennials. And I think Tulsi Gabbard is a perfect example of the kind of person who who had a large gap between her and Hillary Clinton. Considering, of course, that Gabbard backed Bernie Sanders and resigned her role as a member of the DNC executive committee because of how the DNC treated Bernie Sanders during the last during the primaries, right? So here we are. Farage is now polling in his Brexit party for the European parliamentary elections a week from Thursday. He's now polling above Labour and Tory combined, right? So we're talking about Labour and Tory polling about 30, 32, 33% maybe, and Farage is polling at around 35%. He's pulling from both sides of the political spectrum. He's uniting Labour and Tory on an issue. And I've said this many times in previous videos, but I just want to pound this point home. He has the ability and is structuring the campaign very smartly to bring everybody together over the big issue. And the big issue is Brexit. The big issue is democracy. And the big issue is whether or not the people run the government or the government run the people. And if you look at Tulsi Gabbard, you see a very similar theme to the way she presents herself. There's a certain amount of authenticity. I've watched multiple town hall meetings with Tulsi Gabbard, right? Small, intimate settings, small, 25, 30, 40, 50 people. And you realize that she has that same quality. She has that completely different. Nigel is confrontational and very male and very boisterous and very and kind of a man of the people kind of thing, but he's obstreperous, he's kind of not obstreperous. He's outgoing and gregarious and all of that, and that's who he is. And Gabbard is, she's much more, I don't know, what's the word? Nurturing, I guess is the better word for it. It surprises me that this woman is not a mom. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It surprises me that she's not a mom. And she has that nurturing quality, and she has that genuineness to her that really resonates with voters. And she's talking about the issues that nobody wants to talk about. She's talking about fundamentally shifting our foreign policy, talking about getting rid of the, doing an MIC exit, right? A MIC exit, as it were, and military industrial complex exit, right? So if Nigel is Mr. Brexit, then, Tulsi Gabbard has taken on the Ron Paul mantle of wanting an MIC exit from the American government. And I watched this playing out, and I love what I'm seeing, right? I'm loving the response. I don't know that Tulsi Gabbard will make much of a splash in 2020, but you can see her honing her political chops. You can see her building a base of operations. You can see her building a base of support. It may not be her time yet. Doesn't matter. It took Nigel Farage 20 years of arguing for Brexit, of being a member of the European Parliament for years, and doing interviews and doing speeches and getting them on YouTube and all of this stuff. It took years to get the people to rally behind him. And it may take Tulsi Gabbard 4, 6, 8 years to finally hone her, for America to come to her. I saw an article over on RT recently that says now Tulsi Gabbard is ready for America, but is America ready for her? And it's a very good question. It's a very good question. It's a fair question in many ways. So, but I watch both of them, the ability of them both at this moment in time to go to the core issues, because now to go to the core issues and unite people along those issues. Because if you really stop to think about where we are in this cycle with Donald Trump literally going to war with everybody. I did a whole live stream last night where I screamed into the microphone for 40 minutes that only an heir to the kingdom of only the heir to the throne of the kingdom of idiots would fight a war on 12 fronts, and Donald Trump can't seem to go 24 hours without picking a fight with somebody. And it's insane that we're here at this time, and Trump is genuinely betraying everything he ran on, while at the same time kind of having virtue signaled during the campaign, which we kind of ignored, all the stuff about him hating Iran and, being a friend to Israel and all of this stuff. We never thought he would take it this far. We never thought that he would stock his administration with the worst Iran warhawks in DC. And yet he has. And so there's a moment here for Tulsi Gabbard to remind everybody just how far Donald Trump has strayed from his mandate, and to try and bring the Democratic candidates back into line. And I love the fact that she's doing it. I love the fact that she's in the conversation. I want to see her succeed in remaking the Democratic Party, because the other option is for the Cenk Uygur Justice Democrats wing of the Democratic Party to take over and turn the thing into a complete, full-on Trotskyite insanity, insane asylum. So, and when you watch these two politicians, this is what they have in common. They have that ability to unite people across party lines. For labor voters in middle class labor voters in England to rally around Brexit, to understand that it may hurt, that Brexit may hurt a little bit. That's okay. Just like with Gabbard, yeah, it may hurt a little bit that we have our reputation may take a hit, even our economy may take a hit by undoing all of these foreign wars, on removing all of the welfare to the arms manufacturers and the General Dynamics and the Boeings and the Lockheed Martins and Raytheons and the rest of them. So where we're headed into 2020, certainly in next week's European parliamentary elections, the theme I keep getting over and over and over again from watching watching interviews with Nigel and watching interviews with everyday Britons, and the feedback that I get here on this channel is that it's all about trust. That trust is the thing that's on the ballot, and that they trust Nigel to do the job. And what was interesting was watching him, during that interview, he made it abundantly clear. He's like, Theo Usherwood, the political editor at Nigel's former employer, LBC, the radio station, asked him, he's like, well, that sounds, Nigel, like you're going to stand as a member of parliament in the general election. He's like, well, I have to. It's a duty at this point. I have to. I can't not do it. I have to do it. I have to see this thing through to its conclusion. I honestly thought, and he said this, I honestly thought that after the general election and everybody had it in their manifesto and 500 MPs, ran on and were elected on a pro-Brexit platform, that my job was done and I could walk away, job well done, and I can move on with my life. And I can get done with this political nonsense. And that's not the case. Now I'm honor-bound, duty-bound to see this thing through to its conclusion. And if that means running for parliament, standing for parliament, leading the Brexit party into parliament, fighting tooth and claw to get Brexit through, I'll do it. And then I listened to Gabbard on Joe Rogan saying the same thing. She's like, I don't want to run for president. I don't want to do this. I don't need to do this. I have other things I could do with my life. Be a mom. Be a great mom. But it's a duty. This is the woman who signed up to defend our country after 9/11. Was she duped into that by the neocons and everybody after post 9/11? Sure. Does she feel buyer's remorse for that? Somewhat. Not the service itself, but the reasons why? Absolutely. Do all of us feel that way? Absolutely. And we're tired of it. We're sick of it. Sick to death of it all. And it needs to end. And Trump is not making himself into our champion. If anything, he's falling farther down the abyss of the swamp than we ever thought possible. So I think it's going to be very interesting going forward here to watch to see what happens. We know that Gabbard is qualified for the DNC debates. Now, they could always, move the goalposts again. We'll see. I wouldn't doubt it. But she's not polling very highly at this point, so I don't think that really matters. But again, Ron Paul was polling less than 1% in 2008, and then he stood up to Rudy Giuliani, and all of a sudden, within 3 weeks, he was challenging the front runner. So I do expect Gabbard to see a bit of a bump here after Joe Rogan. I think I just checked the stats on the video, and it's up over 600,000 views within 24 hours. I think that's great exposure for her. And we'll see if that can translate into a bump in the polls, even if it's just 1 or 2%. Get her out of the ghetto of the 1% range, get her into the next level of candidates. But even so, even if she doesn't resonate here, even if it doesn't work, you're building a base for what comes next. There is no principled anti-war candidate voice in American politics at this point. None. It's gone. It's been stamped out both by Trump and by the DNC. They don't want it. They're united. They're united in their push towards perpetual war for perpetual peace, for perpetual MAGA, make Israel great again. And I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of having to watch this play out. And I'm sick of everybody cynically playing games to sell weapons and sell arms, and then just look at GDP and go, look, we're spending, look, we've got the gross national spending is up. Well, it's amazing how easy it is to get gross national spending up, Don, when you spend $1.2 trillion more than you take in. And then you just include it in the gross national spending numbers. It's easy. Called math. Frickin' moron. Saw a thing this morning on RT that, or is it Sputnik, that Trump doesn't want European nations to start working on their own weapon systems. No, he doesn't want them to spend. They're going to spend more money on their defense. He, of course, wants them to just buy U.S. weapon systems. Why do anything else? You just buy our stuff. It's the best. It's like, so all of that stuff about them not paying their fair share is really just amounts to you just wanting even more welfare for General Dynamics and Raytheon? Yeah. And then we got to go pick wars. We got to go fight wars somewhere, because otherwise you can't, market the friggin' weaponry to get people to buy them. So it's absolutely sickening to see this playing out against the backdrop of them, saber rattling a war against Iran. So much of this is it's nonsense, but it's nonsense with a human cost. It's nonsense with a real human cost, both here at home and abroad. It's money wasted, spent on things that should not be spent. It's all just systemic, gross malinvestment of capital, time, energy, people, resources, you name it. It's disgusting, and it needs to end. And while I don't think Nigel Farage is the guy to get that done principally in England, I do believe he's the one that will stop the march towards European integrationist, the European integrationist impulse and the globalist impulse, which is behind all of this. He understands it at that level. So he is absolutely. So it's absolutely unacceptable. There's two things about this, and Glenn Horowitz just brought up a great point. He says, I find myself agreeing with you about Tulsi. Despite her awful collectivist and anti-gun stances, she does strike me as teachable. Teachable being in all capital letters. She is teachable. I think she's a very reasonable person. I've watched multiple interviews with her, and again, I go back to the first Joe Rogan interview she did. Again, I haven't seen all of yesterday's interview, but where Joe Rogan gave her every opportunity to give the shitlib talking point. And she didn't do it. On education, on welfare, on this and that. It was all about finding solutions that work. It was all about reaching across the aisle to get people to, find solutions that are practical and are implementable. And I think that when you realize that's what you're dealing with, you're dealing with somebody who's not deep in the throes of ideology, or is a power, or is just, and all kinds of ideology, not just collectivism, but the ideology of power and the psychosis that comes along with that. She doesn't seem to have that as of right now. She's not a narcissist like Donald Trump is. She's not a fundamentally flawed human being. But she and Nigel Farage, I'm sure, test very highly for conscientiousness on the big 5 pillars of personality test. Why is she a Dem, Lissandy asks? Well, because she does believe in universal basic income or something along those lines. She does believe in universal health care, at least as options, at least as far as I understand it, at least given the current situation that we spend $900 billion a year on quote unquote defense, at least half of which we don't need to spend that on. And while we're not spending it on the infrastructure and healthcare and all the other things that we could be spending it on, all that money could be spent so much more wisely. And yet it's spent on indulging the paranoia of the most powerful psychopaths on the planet. In the DOD, the CIA, the think tanks on K Street, and and all the people who lobby them for more. So I look at Tulsi Gabbard from a purely pragmatic perspective, in the same way I think that a lot of Labour voters in Britain are looking at Nigel Farage. He's not there for them to solve everything now. His job now is to deliver Brexit. That's what they're going to vote for him for. They may not vote for him in 5 years, right? It may never. He may never fully grab all of those people from that level. That's fine. His job deliver Brexit. Then they can fight about how they're going to implement a better England and make, and do mega, make England great again or whatever. Okay? Same thing with Gabbard. Gabbard's fundamental core belief at this point is to stop the wars. Stop the military-industrial complex. Don't get bogged down in whether or not she believes in universal basic income or is anti-gun or is this or that. None of that shit matters. You've got a Trump Supreme Court that's not terrible. You've got a Congress that will stop her from doing anything horrible. Don't get bogged down in that. Stop going all the way to the end. Stop virtue signaling about your fucking principles, because your principles are not on the ballot. Saving the fucking country and saving your culture is what's on the ballot. This is I have to get there. It's not about your fucking principles. I don't mean to be rude here, but it's true. I had to tell myself the same thing. I had to go through this same process because 2-3 years ago, I was the one sitting on the sidelines. Well, Trump's I don't really like his. Shut the fuck up, junkie. It's either him or Hillary Clinton. Seriously, it's not about does she tick enough boxes for you to get you to vote for. Fuck that. This is at this point in time, it's like some miracle. It's Tulsi Gabbard versus Donald Trump. I got news for you. I'm voting for Tulsi Gabbard. Period. I'm not voting for Donald Trump. Fuck Donald Trump. I'm not going to believe a word he says. Just like Putin's not going to believe a word he says. Just like friggin' Rouhani's not believing a word he says. The only one who believes anything that Donald Trump says is Netanyahu. And fuck that guy too. He's a war criminal. It's not a Stratocaster. That's a P-base, dude. You got that one wrong. That's just the Squire P-base. What's out of frame is my Rickenbacker. See? All right, there you go. Quick word on UBI. What do I think? I think it's terrible. I'm a libertarian. Work for what you get in this life. The problem here is, no, UBI is dumb. It's like welfare is dumb. But I'm not just not arguing about it at this point. It's just not important. We've got universal basic income for all the merchants of death. They get $900 billion a year. Well, I'm tired of them getting universal basic income and me have to pay for it. How's that? It's a big wealth transfer and a big fucking giant vacuum sucking sound. It comes straight out of my ass and straight into their mouths. My old Les Paul knockoff. I want a Paul Reed Smith guitar myself. My old Les Paul knockoff needs a friend. Hey man, my 339 sitting over here getting lonely on the other side over here, which you can't see. It's getting lonely, along with my 66 Warren Wilshire. I haven't played them in days. So, but at this point, oh, I mean, Corn brings up a really good point on D-Lives. Like, I'd vote for Gabbard over Trump too, but I might go with him over just about every other Dem. I'll agree with that as well. I just won't vote. If my choice is between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I'm staying home. Because it doesn't really freaking matter at that point. That is not shaped just like a Stratocaster. I can see it in the mirror, Larry Lane, and I can give you all the attitude I want. It's my channel. You are free to leave. What Stratocaster do you know of that has a split pickup in the mid position? And only 2 of them. And a highly tapered fretboard. I mean, I can go on all day. It's a P-base. Is there a possible redemption of Trump in the second term? No, there isn't. Get it out of your head. If anything, Trump will be worse in the second term. He's already told you that. Glenn Horowitz says, I don't believe the contrived paradigm of choosing the lesser evil. Yeah, vote Cthulhu, never choose the lesser evil. I refuse to consent to Trotskyite or Stalinist or Mussolini-style corporatism. There you go. The only way out I see is for enough Americans to do likewise. Even a significant and consistent minority will do. I'll agree with that. Yeah, if for anybody who thinks that you're going to talk to me in the comments that I'm not going to be able to give you attitude, you ain't ever been here before. You can leave now. Just I don't give a shit. It's my channel. I'll do what I want. I ain't feeling well enough to dude, I can tell a P-bass from a Stratocaster from 100 yards away. All right? So, there you go. Sorry, it just kind of bothers me. So, dude, it's not a Stratocaster. All right. Just isn't. I think that's about it. I think if we're arguing about the shape of musical instruments about this point, I don't have anything else to say. So, there we go. Yeah, we'll call that a stream. I'll be back on Friday night at 8:30 for the regular stream at 1 p.m. For about an hour or so. Probably be on Thursday early afternoon. I've got an interview to record on Thursday afternoon. I won't be on tomorrow. Got too much other stuff going on. So, yeah, we'll... So for those of you who, if you liked what you heard today, and I'm sure Larry Land is not going to come back, if you like what you heard today, please give a like and subscribe down below. Please bang the little notification bell for when I do go live, because I do this kind of catch as catch can other than Monday nights at 8 and Friday nights at 8:30. You can follow my work over tomluongo.me. The name of the stream is Gold Goats and Guns. The name of the blog is Gold Goats and Guns. And the name of my Patreon is Gold Goats and Guns. And you can follow me over there as well. And if you haven't, you can support the stream with no skin off of your back by installing the Brave browser and signing up for Brave Rewards. And this channel is a verified publisher, as is Gold Goats and Guns. All right, you guys take care. You have a great afternoon. We will talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.